Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our 2011 annual dinner meeting. I'd like to ask all of our past presidents of this organization to please stand so that we can recognize you. Past presidents. All right, thank you. And I'm also going to give special thanks to our immediate past president, Chuck Germana. Chuck has been instrumental in moving this organization forward, and I am so happy to say that he is moving on, and he's currently serving as our county counsel for county council for District 4. So thank you, Chuck. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully you'll stay engaged with us as you move wherever life takes you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the agenda. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we're going to have Jackie Albers from Maple Heights come up and do the invocation. I'll have to stand with you because you have to be mic'd.
I'm mic'd, okay. All right.
Heavenly Father, we gather together asking for guidance and clarity in the work we are committed to accomplish. Enlighten our minds with wisdom to create decisions that serve our communities with honesty and integrity. Direct our thoughts, our words, our actions to reflect truth and respect for all those we encounter, all those we serve. Be with us as we conduct our business this evening, giving our efforts your continued blessing. We also ask that you remember in your prayers the chief from Oakwood Village, Chief Robert Semick. Yes. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Clinton Hall to please come forward and welcome us in his own special way. Yeah, no, respect should have been on that side. This.
Good evening. On behalf of the administration, City Council, and the residents of the City of Warrensville Heights, it is indeed an honor and a privilege to welcome the Northeast Ohio City Council Association to the City of Warrensville Heights. As a former council member myself, I feel right at home with this organization. So if this is your first time visiting our city, please remember, you can always come back to the friendly city of Warrensville Heights. I'd like to introduce some of my council members that are here. So if you have any questions about this city of Warrensville Heights, feel free to ask me or one of my council members. Councilwoman Deborah Hill, will you please stand? Councilwoman Doris Hagwood. Councilwoman Pauline Good. And Councilman, who you are now in Ward 5, Councilman Darnell Robinson. Like many cities, our city of Warrensville Heights is moving forward. This recession has impacted all of us, but we continue to move our city forward with good government and the people behind us. So thank you, and if you come to Warrensville, feel free to come again. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're also going to have our treasurer, Deborah Sarnowski, come forward from Garfield Heights to give us the treasurer's report. Oh, that's actually, I should have went the other way. Hold on.
Okay, as of today, the Northeast Ohio City Council Association has in their checking account $7,709.11. Our paid members to date are Orange, Moreland Hills, University Heights, Mayfield, North Olmsted, Valley View, Shaker Heights, Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, Fairview Park, Maple Heights, Brook Park, Parma, Seven Hills, Gates Mills, Solon, Bedford, Strongsville, Oakwood, and Olmsted Falls. We also have 4 associate members, Chuck Germana, Steve Bennett, Adu Zucker, and Carmen Centeni. Adele, I'm sorry. What did I say? Okay, and for the 2010 annual financial report and 2010-11 budget, as of January 1st, we had $4,192.67. We had an income of $14,535 and spent $12,769. We had a couple outstanding bills. Our ending cash balance was $14,652.16, including we have a CD also that has $12,000 in it. The budget for 2011, we're starting off with $2,519.25. Our certificate of deposit is $12,132.91. We're hoping to get income from membership, $14,000. From the dinners and forums, $300. Interest, about $50, which is a total of $14,350. Our disbursements for the year will total up for $13,269. There's some statements on the tables. If you want to look, if you have any questions, you can ask me later or ask me now. Our ending balance, according to the budget, hopefully will end up with, including our CD, at $15,733.16. Is there any questions? Okay, thank you. We'll go down the right way.
Okay. Oh, yes, we do need to have a motion to approve. Thank you, Sean. Okay, we can do that. We need a motion to approve the budget as read. So moved. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Our budget has been approved. Thank you, Deborah. I'd like to take a moment right now to also acknowledge and welcome Nicole Daly-Jones, who is a past member of this organization and also has had the wonderful opportunity to move to the county council, not council, but with the county executive as his communications director. And Nicole, if you'll stand, or if you'd like to come and say a few words, thank you. At this time, we'll have our board member, Anthony Akins from Oakwood Village, come forward. He's going to do the election of officers, and then we will do the installation of officers. We might have to delay the installation of officers. Our oath is going to be given tonight by State Senator Nina Turner, who has not arrived yet, but she is scheduled to be here. Thank you. You're going to come that way. Put that on.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am here to present the nominating committee slate for 2011. Candidate for President, Danita Love from Highland Hills. Candidate for Vice President, Al Foster from Shaker Heights. Candidate for Secretary is Peggy Cleary from Fairview Park. Candidate for Treasurer is Deborah Sarnowski from Garfield Heights. Candidates for Members at Large are Anthony Akins, Oakwood Village, Jackie Albers from Maple Heights, Mark Bram from Orange, and Jennifer Manick from Broadview Heights. And lastly, candidates for the nominating committee are Paul Barker from North Olmsted, Anne Marie Donegan from Olmsted Falls, and Eloise Henry from Richmond Heights. Now, with that slate, are there any nominations from the floor? Okay. Going once, going twice. All right, I guess that accepts our nominating committee slate for 2011. I'd like to make a motion to accept the slate as is. Okay, second? Yes, second. All right. It's been moved to second of slate. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Congratulations, everybody.
Okay, can I have your attention, please? We're going to move forward in the program with the installation of our newly elected officers. So if we can have all of the newly elected officers, please come forward. We are going to have the swearing in by Senator Turner.
Good evening, everyone. Well, it's such an honor to install the officers of NOCCA tonight. And so I want you all to raise your right hand and repeat after me and say your name. I do solemnly swear that as an officer of the Executive Board of NOCCA, I will uphold and support the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, and the Constitution and bylaws of Northeast Ohio City Council Association. They did. I swear that in all respects, I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties and obligations of the office I am elected to as an executive board member of NOCCA. I further pledge that all of my official acts shall be just and honorable, and I will work for success of NOCCA during my continuance in said position to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations to all the officers.
Okay, at this time, I'm actually going to take a moment before we have our Secretary Peggy Cleary introduce the speakers and ask that our immediate past president, Chuck Germano, please come forward so that we can present him. Can you hear me?
Wow.
And I'm just going to read it real quick. It says, in honor and recognition of Chuck Germano for his years of exceptional dedication, leadership, and service to NOCCA.
Okay, say a couple words?
Yes, please.
Well, back in Parma, they say that, you know, Chuck Germano can't make a short speech, but let me just say that I've learned a lot belonging to NOCCA. It's an important organization, and you got to encourage your colleagues, you know, to come to these meetings because these are great forums. And as you'll find in the new county, we're going to be pushing for intergovernmental cooperation. You'll be hearing about that, and it's a good thing because it's going to help us all. And thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve with the Northeast Ohio City Councils Association.
Okay, at this point, Peg.
Congratulations again, Chuck, and it's a pleasure serving with you on the board. Congratulations. I'd like to welcome our newest member to NOCCA, Moreland Hills. Do we have any representatives from Moreland Hills here this evening? We'd like to welcome you. Thank you. Oh, and the mayor. What did you say? Susan? Susan Rendon, our mayor, is here as well, the mayor from Moreland Hills. I'm sorry I didn't see you. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I have the pleasure of introducing our guests this evening, and we have a panel this evening. Ed Jers is the Regional Collaboration Director for Cuyahoga County. Ed earned his law degree from Harvard and his bachelor's degree from Georgetown. He formerly worked as the Government Relations, the Ohio Department of Development, Euclid City Prosecutor, and Assistant Attorney General. Ed also served as a state representative of the Ohio General Assembly from 1995 to 2004. I also have the pleasure to introduce Mayor Eileen Patton, the mayor of Fairview Park. I'm Peggy Clare, I'm on council in Fairview Park, and it's mayor I work with. The pleasure of working with the mayor as well. She's the 12th mayor of the city of Fairview Park and serving her 3rd term. She's the chief executive officer of the city, supervises the administration of the city's affairs, oversees and is responsible for all city departments, divisions, and offices. The mayor is responsible for the preparation and the submission of the city budget and the appropriation measures, and she also has the ability to enter into and oversee any contracts or agreements the city is a party to. And finally, we have Senator Nina Turner. She's a state senator, and she will be reintroducing legislation to make changes to Ohio's revised code that would give cities and municipalities broader authority to share services. This will give more options to cut administrative costs and allocate certain resources more effectively. Senator Turner introduced Senate Bill 273, which would expand the authority, enabling municipalities to share resources for waste collection, snow removal, and other services. So it's my pleasure to invite the panelists to come out to the front.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name's Eileen Patton, the mayor of the city of Fairview Park, as Ms. Clary stated. I have a table full of our wonderful council people here. I also sat on city council for 6 years, so I congratulate each and every one of you that are public servants in your own communities on city council. Because what we're going to talk about tonight is regionalism, and it can't happen unless we have the support and the understanding and the knowledge of our council men and women. So thank you very much for everything that you do. But first I would like to say thank you to Mayor Hall for your wonderful hospitality tonight. You have a beautiful city, and thank you for having us here. And to the other mayors that are in the audience as well. We kind of had a little powwow before to see who starts and exactly what we're going to talk about. So I drew this straw that says I'm going to talk about things that work and how regionalism on the west side of Cleveland has developed over the years and where we're going with this. So first I want to talk about, it's called the Council of Governments. We call it the West Shore Council of Governments. And North Olmsted is part of that as well. So thank you for all your support that you have over there. The cities are Fairview Park, Rocky River, North Olmsted, Westlake, Bay Village, and Lakewood. Those are our Council of Governments. And as regionalism is seems to be like the buzzword these days, this organization is 40 years old. So way back when, the thought of regionalism and cities working together has taken a life of its own now today, and we're very glad to see that the excitement that's happening over it. I want to tell you what we do in the Council of Governments. The first thing we do is we share a lot. Safety is the #1 thing that we all share together, all the communities I spoke about. We share SWAT, crowd control, narcotics, hostage, bomb squad, hazmat, mutual aid, and we share equipment. That's the first major thing that we do together. 5 of the cities share a court system, plus the Metro Parks is involved in that as well. 4 of the cities share a treatment plant. 4 other cities belong to an organization called SAFE, and that is we monitor airport noise control over at Hopkins. 3 of the cities share one park together. Fairview Park and Rocky River went together on an Issue 2 application and had a whole complete road redone for a sewer project. And 2 of the cities, Fairview Park and Lakewood, are members of the First Ring Consortium. And just recently, Fairview Park convened for the very first time an Economic Development Directors Summit, so we can share ideas of what happens economically. So those are some of the things that the West Shore Council of Governments are doing. Also, I want to tell you what we've been doing recently, as all of our goals are to provide more equitable financing of local services. That's kind of what regionalism is all about, economy of scales, and how do we do it better. Providing services across municipal boundaries is one of the best ways that we can all think of to help communities make the money go further without resulting in less services. Because that's very important, because we're all here to make sure our residents are well served. I'm going to take it back to the year 2002. As a group of us mayors were sitting together in one of our monthly meetings, we talked about a central dispatch center. Back then it was a dream. 3 years later, it was an historic day in the West Shore when we opened the dispatch center. It's located at St. John's West Shore Hospital and donated space that they gave us because they saw the importance of these communities coming together and having one central dispatch center. An agreement was signed between 4 of the 7 cities, Fairview Park, Rocky River, Bay Village, and Lakewood, and Westlake, for the funding and the maintenance and the operation of the Central Fire Dispatch Center. 10% of the initial cost is shared equally, and then the balance is divided between the cities depending on a formula used for population. Now the benefits of this is, obviously it's a new facility, it's the state of the art. We share, everybody knows where all of our big equipment pieces are at all times, and mutual aid has just become, the second breath of this whole entire community. Now, it's been open for over 2 years, and then the thought of regionalism did something that we never thought would happen in the West Shore area. We crossed the border into another county, and the city of North Ridgeville has joined our dispatch center, which has opened up a whole new avenue of regionalism throughout northeastern Ohio. It has been very successful, and we've certainly realized that the story doesn't end there. As all of us have come together in September of '09, we did something that all of us mayors have wanted to do, and that is to talk about a central fire district for the West Shore area. And through the wonderful support that we've had of all of our city councils, our fire chiefs, our fire department employees, service directors, we've had many, many meetings. We hired a company we were very lucky, through efficientgov.com, we were able to receive a $100,000 grant. We took that grant and put it toward the study with emergency services, and we just concluded almost the final chapter of that study with all of our cities. We are now going to be moving into a direction of discussing the legality of it, the financing of it, and the operations of it. And we really never thought, 4 years ago when we started discussing this, that we would be as far along as we are right now. And it certainly has stirred a lot of conversation in the West Shore areas. We've had public meetings, invited the public to engage in this wonderful project as well. We don't know what's going to happen to it. We don't know if it's going to pass through all of our councils, if the funding is going to be there to have this all happen. But we are on a mighty path of talking about what everybody is talking throughout Cuyahoga County and northeastern Ohio. Coming together as one, share our services, save money, and certainly service our residents. There's also, through our new county executive, a lot of the mayors were all asked recently about, give us some ideas as we put together a program, what else can be shared? And I challenge all of the city council members that are out there today. Think about it. I mean, there's many, many ideas. I submitted an idea for civil service. You know, how many community members out there have been involved in hiring policemen and firemen? It's a long process, and it's an expensive process. And you know, I'm picking from Fairview Park, and Rocky River's picking theirs, and Westlake's doing theirs, and Orange is doing theirs. There's a lot of manpower and hours put into something, and it can be centralized, where we can all choose, we can all pick from the same pool of wonderful candidates. To me, that makes sense. So I submitted that on behalf of the city of Fairview Park, as well as simple things like a dog warden, an arborist, things like that where we can all share. And I think those conversations are now well on their way to being discussed. And I ask that all of you take them back to your city councils and have these discussions, because you know, we now have a new form of government. We now have new leadership. We have young and energetic and wonderful people on all of our councils, and people are listening. And I think we're ready for the next step. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight to show that there are success stories. And I hope I demonstrated a few of them to you today on what we do in the West Shore area. And hopefully I'll have a very good success story as soon as we're finished with this complete project of the fire district for the West Shore. And it could be a template that can be used throughout the whole entire county. Even if we don't use the whole plan, but bits and pieces of it to get us to where we want to go, then all the mayors and city councils are open to this idea. So that's where we are right now. And then I can't wait to hear about the new Senate bill that you have introduced, because I'm not very familiar with it, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to take it from there. So
thank you, Mayor, and again to the newly installed officers and the former officers of NOCCA. Congratulations to the entire executive board, and to our host, Mayor, thank you so much. And just for everybody coming out tonight, I just want to thank you. So in the last General Assembly, I introduced Senate Bill 273, and my colleague, Representative Foley in the House, introduced a companion piece with me. And this bill was really born out of the mayor of the city of Cleveland, and he wanted to do some services in South Euclid, and discovered through his law department that legally he could not do it. Mutual aid things we are allowed to do across municipalities, but the code did not allow for shared services such as snow removal and garbage pickup to be done across municipalities. So in the last General Assembly, the 128th, I did introduce Senate Bill 273. But because we were going through the silly season last year in terms of folks running for offices, we really ran out of time. I will say that this bill has bipartisan support. I dually sponsored this bill with my colleague from Cincinnati, Senator Bill Seitz. And as we think about what's going on in the General Assembly right now and us as a region, we have got to begin to do things not based on partisanship, but bipartisanship, and do things that are based on what is in the best interest of our collective constituents. And to me, that does not have a party delineation. You know, I spoke earlier this evening to a group of law students at Cleveland State University, and one young man who's a Republican, he said, I find myself feeling this way on this issue that may be more Democratic leaning, and another way on another issue that may be Republican leaning. And I told him that's natural. And the bottom line is that we should all be of the party of RT, and that's the right thing. And doing the right thing crosses party affiliation. And that's what I'm really, really here to do. So I am fortunate to have a colleague like Senator Seitz who's willing. Not only did he dually sponsor that bill with me last General Assembly, he is dually sponsoring it with me again this General Assembly, and we have made some improvements in the bill. We have not yet introduced it in this GA, and there are a lot of municipalities, as I'm told by Chief Valerie McCall in the mayor's office, that are anxious for us to introduce this bill. But we wanted to make it better, and we hope to introduce this bill within the next 2 weeks, and hopefully we will come together across party lines and introduce this bill. So it is totally permissive. So you don't have to do it. It's up to the individual municipalities to get together and decide that you want to work together. Again, garbage pickup, snow removal, those kinds of things that make a lot of sense. If you think about cities like East Cleveland or South Euclid or other cities that may need that extra support, it only makes sense that you are allowed to do that. it does not negate the primary city from doing its services. So let's say if you decide to perform across boundaries, you as the home city still have the obligation to provide those services should you choose to do so. Also part of this bill deals with, in terms of there are no levies or taxes when it comes to this bill, so none of that comes into play. And then employees who are operating outside of their own municipal boundaries will still be under their same contract guidelines, even if they go out of the city. But I think it is an excellent tool to have in the toolbox as mayors and city council members to be able to come together with a municipality based on the services needed, and as the mayor talked about, creating greater efficiencies so that our taxpayer will get a return. But what it does for the spirit of Northeast Ohio, to see mayors across city boundaries working together in unison for the greater good, I think the mentality that we set up as Northeast Ohio, that is even more powerful than the legislation itself. The fiscal crisis of 2008 has been daunting on us all, but I believe that it has established promise in the problem. And the promise is that it forces us to think more as a unit, because fiscally we can no longer afford to think as individual municipalities. We are either going to sink or swim together. We are all in this together. And additionally, we are working on language that would allow members of council of governments to enter into joint purchasing contracts when requirements for multi-prime contract methods do not apply. So again, this bill is new and improved. And by all means, if you have any other recommendations for me before we introduce this bill, do not hesitate to contact me. And as we go along, as it goes through the committee process, if you have an idea that we can amend, please let me know. And I am asking that if you do support this bill, when it comes time for proponent testimony, that you come down to Columbus and testify about how important it is to have tools in our toolbox so that we can work together as a unit. And in my closing statements, at least on this point, when I talk about our mentality and the way that we deal with one another, the rising tide is going to lift all boats. But some people have boats and no tides, and some folks have a tide and no boat. And really, the residents that we serve, our constituents, they are looking for government to help solve the conundrums that they face every single day. If not us, then who? And we are the ones that we have been looking for. And one of the quotes that that God put on my heart last year, and is still on my heart this year, is a quote from Albert Einstein. And Mayor McCahey and other mayors in my district have heard me say this often. But Albert Einstein said in 1919 that poisonous weeds and corn can grow in the same soil if the conditions are right. He said, I believe that the conditions matter more than the soil. So we are charged with creating the right conditions. And together we can do that bigger and better and be the best Northeast Ohio that not only the state has seen, but all of this world has seen. So I am happy to be a partner with you in creating the best Northeast Ohio that we can be.
Good evening. My name is Ed Juris, and I am the new Director of Regional Collaboration for the county. And I really do appreciate your inviting me out today, because I've only been on the job 3 weeks. I suppose that makes me an expert on regional collaboration, but I'm reminded of a story I read about a Irish politician named Tommy, who was giving a speech, and the guy in the back of the room heckled and said, tell us everything you know, Tommy, it'll only take a few minutes. And he said back, I'll tell you everything we both know, and it won't take any longer. But regionalism, when you talk to people, you get a whole spectrum of ideas. I mean, some people think regionalism is driven by the idea that as an economic unit, we're no longer the city of Cleveland or Cuyahoga County, but we're a region that may stretch to Akron, it may stretch all the way to Pittsburgh. Other people look at regionalism more like we've been talking about, which is collaboration. How do communities come together to be more efficient? And there is a newfound urgency that we all will face in the coming year for several reasons. I know all of you are dealing with your budgets, and with the recession you have fewer revenues or less revenues, so you have those budget pressures. The state is feeling the same thing. And the local government fund, as I'm sure you've all heard, is likely to be affected by this. We don't know exactly how. You hear talk about substantial cuts to the local government fund. You also hear talk, I think the Chamber of Commerce did a report where they made a recommendation that a portion of the the local government fund be cut off and allowed to be a fund for communities that cooperate or are collaborating, so that there would be an actual fund that would be designed only if you're collaborating, to kind of force some collaboration at the local level. There's also just the expectations that are out there. With the new government, people are looking for common sense solutions. On the national scene, you see Governor Christie in New Jersey, Governor Cuomo in New York are both saying, we can't play games anymore with the budget. We have to force cuts, and what we're going to do at the local level is require people to collaborate. So get ready for what I think you're going to have to do. Now, County Executive Ed Fitzgerald ran on a platform that said we need to stop fighting against each other. We need to have a commitment to collaboration, and that's why he promised that he would create a Department of Regional Collaboration. And in fact, the transition group that was working on this, and some of the members are here today, Nina and Mayor Akers, I believe, was on that, and Representative Mike Foley, their top recommendation was that we have a Director of Regional Collaboration so that the county can play a more extensive role on this. So I was appointed to this position, and it was there's no real definition of what regional collaboration means, which is kind of fun because you can kind of go out and define it. And I've been doing a listening tour, and I've spoken to some of the people in this room. Mayor Mulcahy, Mayor Patton, and I got together today. Nina and I got together last week. And we are blessed in Northeast Ohio with a lot of people who've done a lot of thinking on this. I mean, you go everywhere from the academics at Kent State and at Cleveland State and at Baldwin-Wallace. You have politicians like Nina and others who have been focusing on regional collaboration. You have the Issues 6 team, which included Judy Rawson, Mayor Zanotti, formerly of Parma Heights, and others. You have the foundations. You have people at the Gun Foundation, Bob Jaquay, Dave Abbott. You have Brad Whitehead at the Fund for Economic Future, which has been giving out efficient now government grants to spur the kind of collaboration projects that we want. You also have the nonprofits. You have people like Chris Ronayne at University Circle Inc. And it's amazing when you go out and talk to these folks how many ideas they have and how willing they are to share their ideas about what we can do as local governments and as a county government. And you realize that there really is this huge spectrum, everything from starting, sharing a dog warden at the most basic level, or doing bulk purchasing. But then you start getting into more impactful solutions, such as merging fire departments, merging EMS and fire dispatch services, merging school districts, merging cities. And there are conversations like that going on quietly around the county. And that's a good thing, because some people will look at the fact that Cuyahoga County has 59 municipalities and say that's just not sustainable in the long run. People will say, how many school districts do we have, and how much duplication of backroom services do we have? These are all issues that need to be addressed and confronted. Other people will say that collaboration is collaboration on place. We need to make Cuyahoga County and Cleveland a more vibrant community. If we're going to keep the professional class here, if we're going to keep young people here, we have to have places that are exciting. We need to develop the lakefront. We need to develop University Circle. We need to develop the riverfront. These are all opportunities for collaboration. Other people will say there's opportunities for collaboration with industry and institutions and foundations. So I'm wondering when I'm going to get some staff because right now everybody's telling me you got all these things you can do. But my challenge is to try to find out what really matters and what we can focus on to have an impact in the near term. Now, you're going to have a lot of challenges. There have been people who've tried this. There was an effort similar to the effort that's going on now in the West Shore to consolidate fire departments in various cities, and that fell apart over time. And you all work on city councils. You won't know what local politics are like. I served in the legislature, and I'm sure Nina can tell you the same thing. One of the things I realized very quickly is that one guy pounding the table can stop a bill, and 10 people trying to pass that bill won't be able to overcome the one guy who's making everybody afraid that if we do this, something bad is going to happen, or people aren't going to be safe, or the city's going to lose control, or we're going to go down the tubes. So there are huge challenges politically to trying to have these kinds of collaborations. And the other big problem, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is funding. Because I talked to some of the mayors, and they said, well, We wanted to do some collaboration on back office services, but we realized that our computer in this city and this city were different. So we needed $100,000 just to get off the ground. Or someone else will say we needed a planning study to see if our fire departments could merge, but we needed $100,000 for a study or $10,000 for a consultant, and we don't have that seed money. And so these are solutions that we need to look towards. Now, one of the things that Executive Fitzgerald talked about and other people have tried to flesh out is the idea of creating an economic development fund for the county, which would potentially use, for example, the casino revenues to create a fund, and you could bond that out and get a substantial amount of money, and then have a competitive process where people could come in and say, we want to do a merger or a collaboration, but we need some seed money. Can you help us with that? Other people might come and say, we want to develop the riverfront, and we have an idea for that. Other people might have other ideas. We want to merge our city. We want to merge our fire department. We want to have joint back office services, a human relations officer, a human resources officer. All those things would be things that a fund like that would be very good to take those applications, see what the best ones are, and try to fund some to move the city forward and the county forward. And we're very fortunate. Somebody made the comment to me today that we have a once-in-a-lifetime building boom going on downtown in Greater Cleveland when you have the Medical Mart and the Flats East Bank and the Convention Center, all these activities taking place. You've got a new government in place, you've got enthusiasm, and you have this downward pressure from the state. So collaboration, which has been an idea that people have talked about for a long time, is suddenly have this moment where a lot of things are coming together to say this is the time when we can go from talk to action. And we hope to participate in that. We hope to be a catalyst for that because that's what Mr. Fitzgerald thinks is important, and he's put his money where his mouth is by appointing and creating a department, appointing a director for this. So we hope to work with you in the months to come to try to accomplish some of that. Thank you. I guess now we'll take questions from anybody who has any questions.
Just real quick. Senator Turner, the bill that you're talking about, does it... In Homestead Falls and Homestead Township, we're attempting to, along with the school board, to put together a joint recreation initiative. And there are some funding limitations on the school board. Obviously, if we're going to pass anything, 2 municipalities would have to put something on the ballot. We'd like some funding to, actually be part of the school board. And we're, up against some issues legally and in the law. And I'm not certain exactly what they are, but I'm wondering if you might be able to explore that and address this in the bill.
No, I will look into that. As a matter of fact, we have what's called in all the counties education service centers. That may be a way. We will talk afterwards, but I will definitely look into how we can kind of either fold this into the bill or create. There may be another vehicle out there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I would also like to add to that, if you would like to contact us and come on out to the city of Fairview Park, we would love to share the experience that we had. In 2005, the city of Fairview Park passed 2 ballot issues. One was for the schools, and it was a property tax, and one was an income tax for the city. And the result of that is called the Gemini Center, meaning the city and the schools working together. And we built and constructed 127,000 square foot Gemini recreation community center, and we share it with our schools. And we worked through all that funding and all the legalities of it. And we would be more than happy to sit down and share with your community how this was a success.
You're right, and we have certainly looked at that, but we'd probably like to explore that a little bit more. And again, it's a township, a city, and the school. But we will do that. Thank you.
And one of the things I wanted to point out was that a lot of cities will be looking for templates. How do you do this mechanically? And so we need to work together to kind of establish a template file where we can help people out. And I know that some of the work that they've done in terms of examining their fire departments could probably be transferred. At least you get a sense of what are the steps we need to take, what are the studies we need to do, what are the ordinances we need to pass, what are if we need charter amendments, what are the steps to accomplishing some of these collaborative efforts.
And I also think that what would be very helpful if you give some thought to it down the road is, I think everybody talks regionalism, but there's still a lot of different different mindsets on councils. And, maybe just helping councils understand why it's so important, what could be, why we need to do this, because there's still a lot of resistance, I think. I think initially everyone is very positive about it, knows why we need to do regionalism or collaborate more, but there are still some entrenched mindsets. And so, maybe consider, kind of a tour on why this needs to be done, it's okay, and that kind of thing.
And Mayor Patton and I talked about that very question today, because there is a lot of people need to be reassured that this can be done without harming a community. In fact, many ways it can be very helpful, because there are efficiencies that can redound to the benefit. For example, in fire consolidations, you may not need to have $6 million pumper trucks within a short radius with several cities. But the result of maybe limiting the number of trucks you buy is you may be able to put more firemen out there and give better service than simply having duplicative trucks sitting in garages. So.
But the first steps are very scary. And I think many of you that have been through any of this can certainly understand that. And personalities and people's talents and their backgrounds, when you bring schools and cities together, and it's very difficult to work through, but it's workable. It can happen.
No, absolutely, and I think that you can maintain your autonomy as a district or as a municipality or as a township and still have the benefit of this collaboration.
Absolutely.
The private sector does it all the time.
Right.
I was on a panel on Cleveland Public Radio during my first week, and they were talking about revenue sharing, and I know to see Matt Zone here, and the Regional Prosperity Initiative has talked about revenue sharing, and they asked about obstacles. Well, the first call that came in was a guy from Lake County saying, "This sounds like socialism to me," and so those are and those kind of guys can really undermine an effort.
Good evening. I just wanted to comment on the education and regionalism as well. There is currently a school system or a school in our Cuyahoga County that is focused on regionalism. It's an MC squared STEM and Design Lab early college. I think one of the fears that a lot of communities have when they think of regionalism is a fear that we're going to take the best out into another area as opposed to retaining and retention. This school here is been here 3 years now, and it's a very great form of education for students all over Cuyahoga County to attend a school based on engineering, science, mathematics, and technology, areas that is not taught in our local suburban schools as a prime focus. So there is education and regionalism developing. I think it's more of a thing where we as council members and as residents and constituents in our cities get more familiar with the information and the knowledge that's out there, because there is a school system that is housed out of Cleveland, but it is offered to all students within the Cuyahoga region. So I think as we grow to learn more about regionalism, that fear is one of the factors that keep us from actually going into other areas for tools. Thank you.
While they're taking the mic over, I'll just make the comment that a big part of this effort is to revitalize both the urban core and the inner ring suburbs and in the county. There is a real sense that this region cannot survive unless the core is strong, and that is part of the commitment.
I'm Don Saunders. I'm on City Council in the city of Bedford on the southeast side of this county. Senator, I've got one main question on the House or the Senate bill that you posed. Most communities are somewhat doing some type of cooperation and coordination between them anyway. Mm-hmm. I know most of us on the southeast side of the county share something or some form or another garbage we've been doing for several decades now. But how does your bill affect home rule? Because almost all the communities that are chartered have home rule, and for the most part, they don't have to listen to the state to some degree. How does this crisscross? Does it nibble away again at home rule, or how is it working? Because that's where you may run into some resistance, is how it affects the home rule status.
Thank you, Councilman. It has no impact on home rule status. Being a former Cleveland City Council woman, myself serving with Councilman Zone, I have a healthy respect for home rule. This bill is totally permissive. So 2 municipalities would have to agree. So it's not like one municipality. It's not the city of Cleveland going into South Euclid saying, I demand to do this service for you. It's 2 cities coming to an agreement together. So the home rule city does not lose their authority, but both cities coming together, it absolutely has no impact on home rule whatsoever. Again, it is permissive. You make the decision whether or not you want to contract with another municipality. I mean, private industry, the folks that are doing that right now, but 2 municipalities do not have the authority right now under the Ohio Revised Code to contract in those types of ways. The new way that I am and my colleagues are proposing to give that tool in the toolbox. You never have to take the hammer out if you don't want to. But if you need to, you have the ability to do that, and neither city loses its autonomy. And to the council lady that talked about townships, there's a protection in here for townships too. For example, if a county and a city contracts to provide services for a township or a third entity, that third entity has to weigh in. So townships are protected too. Senator Seitz, you know, he has a lot of more townships his way out Cincinnati, more than we have coming closer to Northeast Ohio. But we wanted to make sure that everybody was protected, everybody had a voice. Home rule is still in play.
I think where this came up was the city of Cleveland wanted, or actually East Cleveland wanted Cleveland to do the snow plowing, which would make all this, why should East Cleveland have its own plows and everything if Cleveland can simply send its trucks in and do it quickly and use their infrastructure for half the cost, and they weren't able to do that. So I think that's the impetus behind this bill.
Right. And we have the mayors and managers support, CPAs. Hopefully NOCCA will support this bill as well. Again, it's permissive. It doesn't take anything from anybody.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Matt Zone, council member from Cleveland, Ohio. Senator Turner, through our organization, we could send out an email to our member cities with a sample resolution as you're going for proponent testimony for those communities that would be willing to author a support resolution. It would be great if we can get many resolutions coming in from cities, villages, and townships. So that's one thing that NOCCA can provide for you. I have a comment leading to a question that I'd like all 3 of you to answer. I think everything all 3 of you said is a given. We must do that. And there's really no silver bullet with any of them that's going to really generate the type of cooperation we need within this region. And it really comes down to land use planning. The days of building a Walmart on one corner and then closing it and building another one a half a mile away just have to stop. We cannot be cannibalizing our land, our precious land resources, and not doing smart strategic planning. In 1970, Portland was a wasteland, and they implemented a smart growth plan for that region. Today, it's one of the most thriving parts of our country. What are the 3 of your thoughts from a mayor, a guy who's working on regionalism throughout the county, and a senator's thoughts about regional cooperation about land use within Northeastern Ohio?
Well, we've been able to utilize it. The Fairview Park, even though that we're a part of the West Shore community. I mean, if you think about it, Fairview Park plays with Westlake, which is kind of funny because our economics are a little bit different. We are a fully built out first ring community. And we are landlocked. We have nowhere to move. So what we did in 2001, we partnered with the county, and we looked at a lot of the areas that we have, and we were one of the first applications for the Brownsfield. And that's how we were able to start rebuilding our community up. Most of the communities on the west side are pretty well landlocked, except for Westlake. But we're looking at 1950 structures too. I know that my friends over there from North Olmsted, as we look at all of our shopping malls and our shopping districts. I mean, you know, we were very fortunate in Fairview Park. We worked with the Jacobs Company, and they came in and demolished Westgate Mall and rebuilt it into the pedestrian-friendly outdoor, what are those fancy words they're using now, mall, outdoor mall that you can have. And we're very lucky to have that happen. But we are left with 1950 buildings, and how do we handle that? And the asbestos removal, and all the environmental issues and that you have to go through. It's so costly to do this. So you have to do it in baby steps. And we were very thankful for the county having the Brownsfield program. And now with Ed, working over there, and he hears all our needs, he's probably going to create a wonderful fund for us so we can keep doing this, right? That would be beneficial. But for leaders like Ed in the position that he's in, to hear these things, to know that those are our challenges, is really important. So it's just another way of collaborating and getting our message across.
Mm-hmm. And I think state government can do a lot more to incentivize what you're talking about, Councilman, in how we merit out certain funding to incentivize that. Land is finite, and we're not getting any more of it. And so we got to treat Mother Earth with a lot more respect than we have in previous generations. And so I think the state can do a lot to incentivize that. And the good thing about, issue 6, whether you were for it or against it, it is our reality. But one of the things that was very important to the reformers was that we put health and human services and economic development together, because they do go together. As much as we support health and human services in this county, which I am so absolutely proud of us, you gotta have money to pay for those things, and that's why economic development is so important. So hopefully through that fund on the county level, there can be money there to incentivize how we deal with land. But we're gonna have to look at that strategically, and we cannot look at it city by city. We need to look at it regionally, but I believe that is a local decision, but state government can do a lot to incentivize that through funding sources.
I sat down last week with Tom Byer, who some of you may know. He's at Cleveland State. And Tom has been a voice in the wilderness for 30 years on this. When I was on Euclid City Council in the late 1980s, he was talking about the devastating impact of outward migration from the urban core and the inner ring suburbs. And he says it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, because people continue to move out, and you see it every 10 years in the census. And we're duplicating infrastructure. We're building new sewers and new roads and new interchanges, and we're just sucking the people and the businesses out to the outer rings, and the core is going to die. And he says if we don't change this, we will die. And so what you're saying is exactly right. What he's saying is exactly right. Now, what are the challenges? The people that are running the state right now, I mean, God willing, they'll listen to you, but they represent those outer ring suburbs. They see the growth. That's where the people there are clamoring for the new roads and the new interchanges. Those are the people that elected them. So that's a challenge. You also have very practical dilemmas. When I was with the Department of Development in Middlefield, there was a company there that said, we are going to move to Texas because we keep having power outages. We need a bigger power station out here. So then as a public official, is your decision to say, we're not going to build that power station, which could also supply a new residential development and suck more people out to Middlefield or Geauga County? Or do you say, yes, we're going to build that and keep you here in Ohio rather than losing you to Texas? So there's very practical. You talk to other people and they'll say, the greatest achievement we have is building more interchanges out to the suburbs, because that's where the development is. That's where, in the film that we saw recently about sprawl, Senator Stivers, who's now in Congress, said, why are you telling me fix it first? Why do you want to repair sewers in South Euclid when all the development is out in Dublin? And that's where we should be investing our money. So there's huge obstacles. You're right. And we've got to get the public officials, especially at the state level, saying we've got to stop that. But it's a huge challenge.
And well, we do that through public policy. Either public policy can reward that kind of behavior, or we can incentivize collaboration with money. And we need to do a better job with that. And this is about shared sacrifice. We can no longer afford in this environment to be individuals. We just cannot do it. And so courage, it's going to take courage of leadership, no matter what our zip codes are, to come together and sacrifice for the greater good. And as elected officials, we got to have the courage to have the hard conversations with our constituencies, because this is bigger than you and I. This is about future generations. And just as generations before us sacrificed, what are we going to sacrifice for future generations? And you know, somebody once said that when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, that's when we'll start to change. And so this is pain-filling time, in a sense that we have got to go out and preach the gospel of collaboration. And what does it really mean? We got to give up to get. And there's no easy way around that. So the silo, it just doesn't work anymore. We are going to have to collaborate.
probably best for you. I'm Ed Krause from Solon, and one of the things that we've seen with our economic development is it's not local anymore. It's all national and international. And so really our focus now is strictly nationally, internationally, and we're going to devote most of our marketing and our resources to that. Eddie, maybe to you, do you foresee the conversation going outside of Cuyahoga County, including, you know, maybe a 7 or 8 county region? Because Cuyahoga County, you know, obviously is finite, but when you have a larger, you know, marketplace and a stronger area, maybe 7 or 8 counties, certainly the state government will probably listen more, and hopefully the national government will listen more, and it probably makes it more of an incentive to attract that national, international businesses if it's going to be regional support as opposed to just one county out of 88.
Right, and I think that's a lot of the forward thinking on economic development is right along those lines, recognizing that the strengths of a state are really by region, so that you see that there are synergies between Cleveland and Akron, and the education centers that you have, and the industrial centers, and the pipelines and the supply chains. There was an article in the Plain Dealer about a month ago about how the supply chains between Pittsburgh and Cleveland are very similar, and that there are opportunities, and I know Congressman Tim Ryan is working a lot on that. You know, part of the, and there is the 16, I think, is RPI a 16 county? 12, okay. So there are those efforts. Now, one of the challenges is focus also, because some of that, depending on what we're working on, you have to somehow focus on the immediate need, which is the collaborations that are going to be done by the communities in Cuyahoga County, without losing sight of the broader issues and the longer-term solutions that need to be driven on a regional basis outside of Cuyahoga County alone.
No, while they're passing the microphone, I just want to ask everyone in this room a question. As legislators in the cities in which you are, I'm going to run you through a little exercise. This is a regional question that has not been discussed today. And as legislators in all of your cities, if your mayor brought forward to you a piece of legislation that states a company in your community has $400,000 in income tax that comes to your general fund, and they were leaving the city, would you share that income tax with the city that it's going to? No, the business is leaving, going to another city, and would you share that income tax with that other city until they were able to backfill their building?
If it's coming to your city.
If it's coming to our city, just so you don't leave the city with zero income tax overnight? Think about it. That's a regional question that really isn't discussed. As we talk about crossing borders and working as a region, this is a real life story, by the way. There was a company that was in a city that left. That city approached the other city and said, you know, we're in dire straits. How about sharing that income tax with us until we can backfill the building? You know, we'll do whatever we can to work for that to happen. And the request was denied. Then the city had to make some really, really tough decisions. Real life, true story. And that's a regional question that, you know, really needs to be talked about a little bit more, and how you would handle that. Because, you know, as the budget makers of your city, you could be faced with that.
Do we have time for one more question?
Frank Monick. I'm on the County Board of Education, but I want to bring up an issue that hasn't been addressed, and I think it's a major part of this. I've been involved in the public sector, I don't know, some 40 years. I remember talking to Matt's father and his mother when they were on Cleveland City Council about the same issue. And I remember talking to Senator Jackson and Ike Thompson and John Deeb when we all served in the legislature together. 85% of all costs are personnel, full-time personnel with benefits. And the bottom line in regionalism is to save money and increase efficiency. how have you three, in each of your capacities, reached out to organized labor to get them to the table to understand how this is going to work? Because without their support, it's not going to happen. There's no way. I've seen it. I've seen cities try to close a fire station and 200 union people show up at the meeting and put the fear of God in the community. I've seen mayors try to lay off 3 policemen because a union wouldn't take a cut so everybody could keep working, and 250 people show up at the council meeting and convince the constituents that rapes and murders are going to occur the next day, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
And as a school board member, both on a local board, a county board, you know, we're faced with that right now in addressing our school districts to say, do we need all these districts and these superintendents and treasurers? Do we need, you know, all these different, you know, transportation's a big cost. Should we outsource this to one source? But it gets back to collective bargaining contracts. And how do you change that? I'm curious to how you three are addressing that, because it's a major component.
Well, we pray for a 1-year extension to get us through the year, I think.
I've actually, Frank, I've actually reached out to a number of union leaders already, including firefighters. And interestingly, and I can't speak as much to the schools, but interestingly, there wasn't the reaction I would have expected, which is similar to what you've described, because I think at least in the fire area, many of them say we're minimally staffed at the fireman level, and that the efficiencies would be more in the capital, you know, trucks that you're buying. That's where you'd save a lot of money, and you might have to, if you have 7 chiefs, you might have to have 1 chief and 7 captains, and you hope that with attrition, because the captains are going to be the older guys anyways, that within time there will be some attrition there, and in fact the savings may lead you to actually, in some instances, have some increases in personnel, because if you're not paying for $1 million pumper truck, you may be able to add on a guy or 2. So I did not find as much resistance. The other thing you have to argue is that the economic health of these communities and these school districts, you know, if those things continue to decline and the revenues decline, they're going to have to lay off people anyway. So if you're collaborating and you're healthier, you have more of an opportunity at least to sustain a level of employment that you hope that will be satisfactory to the unions.
And as a legislator, I have not had to deal with collective bargaining. But I will tell you, as a state senator, when I left the State House today, there were thousands of people who had converged on Columbus over Senate Bill 5, which is to repeal, you know, collective bargaining. Now, for me, coming from this vantage point, that this is really about shared sacrifice here. So unions have to give up too, and the question becomes not just for unions, but for all of us, what are we going to give up for the greater good? And I do not want to paint union folks as demons, you know, public. It used to be a time in this country where public service, whether you were elected or hired or appointed, was a virtue. And we have a climate in this country that wants to blame public service employees for all the ills, all the budget woes. There is something wrong with that. That is something wrong with that. I mean, that's how a lot of people made it to the middle class. That is how we made it to the middle class. And since we are celebrating Black History Month right now, the history of African Americans in this country, where private industry would not hire African Americans and Latinos and women at the same rates and levels. It was through the union that African Americans and other people of color and disenfranchised people were able to make it to the middle class. So I say to my union brothers and sisters, the same thing I'm saying to my elected brothers and sisters tonight, is that either we are going to evolve or die, and that's for everybody, and that this is about a shared sacrifice. But we should not vilify any group of people, because we're all going to have to do this together. You know, I've been getting thousands of emails, like all of my other colleagues, about this fierce battle about Senate Bill 5. And I even had, Republicans and Democrats and people talking about how they're going to lose their way of life and they're not going to be able to put their children through college. Everybody, from the janitor to the CEO, has a right to live a good life. Not a decent life, not a halfway okay life, but a good life.
And government's job is to level the playing field and create the opportunities for that. And I know we're facing an $8 billion budget crisis, but nobody was crying out when Imran robbed all of those hardworking folks of all of their money. But then we want to lay this all at the feet of public employees. All I'm saying is that they got to give to get. I agree with you. I mean, in Chicago, for example, and I'm sorry, Madam President, in Chicago, for example, somebody was able to write in that police officers every other year got 365 days worth of sick time. Now, come on, now you know that's absolutely ridiculous, right? That's this way. But for other folks, they're just trying to live a good life and put their kids through college, live in safe neighborhoods and communities. I don't think that's too much to ask. So this is about shared sacrifice. And I think if we bring folks to the table, they will bargain honestly if we talk about what is at stake. Hard on the issues, soft on people. It breaks my heart to see all of those union members down there fighting for their lives because some folks want to make the pendulum go too far the other way. You know, Dr. King said it's not where you stand in times of convenience, but where you stand in times of crisis and controversy. And we are in times of crisis right now where folks they don't even know where their next meal is going to come from. So we can't lay this all at the feet of public employees, but they got to give, they got to sacrifice too. So I think it's a shared sacrifice for all of us. Or as my grandmother used to say, lottie-dottie and everybody has a role to play. I'm sorry, Madam President.
I also want to just say that Northeast Ohio City Council Associations did start as the Greater Cleveland Suburban Council Association. So we did see the need to include our core city, Cleveland, and we invited them in as members of this organization because it is so critical that we include our core city, and suburban council and mayors need to work with our core city more so that we can have this collaboration that our guest speakers have talked about. So go back to your councils with that idea and with that energy to make this happen, because we are going to die if we don't work together as one. And I thank you. And